So let's assume you have already started the process of making the commitment to say online meetings are going to be a reality in our business, in our organization, be I a large organization, a sole trader, a small business, marketing locally or marketing into export markets. And let's say we've started the process of setting up our equipment, our software, our facilities. We're now starting the training process where we're going to say, how do we become more proficient, more professional, better and best at online meetings? And what I'd like to do in the next few minutes is just to share with you some of the experiences that I've had in that respect. I always begin with the technology and just say, look, let's try and get a list of what technology is out there. And I'll quite often put the person who's most comfortable with the technology in charge of that. Should it be our IT provider, our IT manager, someone internally within the business, possibly you yourself, and engage with it. In terms of meetings, I'll often say, why are we meeting? What's the title of this meeting? Is it operations? Is it sales? Is it marketing? Is it human resources? Is it health and safety? And what specifically are we dealing with? Who should be at the meeting? What are the agreed timings? And that in the lockdown period is quite often something that we have to think about, because a lot of people say, well, I'm here all the time. I'm going to say, well, let's agree what the timings are. The other thing that I like to do is if I'm having a meeting, I'll circulate the briefing papers in advance. What do I mean by briefing papers? Possibly just something that says, look, you know what the agenda is, and you know that if you're having to submit a report each week as to what did you get up to last week, what have you got planned for next week, it's about agreeing that we're going to gather that information before. The other thing about successful online meetings is having guides, sitting down together and saying, look, what's the focus of this meeting? Who's in charge of the meeting? Who's in the chair? And by the way, I'm not sensitive about who's in the chair. I'm quite happy to rotate the chair, but someone needs to be in the chair to marshal the various online people who might be dialing in, whether it's just you and another person, 4 people, 8 people, 10 people. And I've had Zooms where there's 20 people dialing in. There needs to be a chair, there needs to be a note taker who takes the minutes, identifies the tasks, and then goes through the process of rolling these out. And I commend to you a takeaway that is the RAG report. It's a template that I use a lot in my online meetings where I'll say to someone, let's do a quick review of how we're getting on. Let's look at the reds, the ambers, and the greens, hence the RAG report. Red generally stands for something that's stuck or isn't moving. Amber is something that's progressing but needs a bit of a nudge or a shove, or somebody needs some help with it. And green is something that's completed. And as soon as it gets completed, it's taken off and then stored. But I always have a list where we can look at all our greens so that we can celebrate what we've done. Red, amber, green. And if you go online and tap in RAG report templates, you'll pull the internet over on its side. There's thousands and thousands of templates and examples you can use. And again, if you're already using a minute format, great, stick with what you know. The next item is the agenda. I've gone to meetings where there is no agenda, and it's been fun. I've been at meetings where there's an agenda which was distributed 5 minutes before the meeting, and it ever changes. And I have gone to meetings where there's an agenda where I had no time to prepare for a thing. And in an ideal situation, what I'll often say is that if this is a fixed meeting, if it's a sales meeting, an operations meeting, a planning meeting, a leave meeting, for example, it surprises me many companies say, who's off this week? And people go, we don't actually know. So if you're having, let's say, a leave review meeting or just a human resources meeting, whatever, I'll often say, could we have a fixed agenda where we'll talk about what it is that we're going to do? And then could we assist on any other business 48 hours in advance? And what I mean by that is that someone may be concerned about an issue. It could be a hot topic, such as somebody may say, I think we should have a discussion about our return to work policy and practices. We don't have a document in that respect, and we're due to come back to work in September, let's say, or something like that. So therefore, somebody putting that in as a potential agenda item, perfectly acceptable. However, we may make a decision to say, I'm going to accept it, I'm going to raise it, but I'm going to take it offside. And the offside rule states that, John, Mary, and that's a great idea. That's a good agenda item. I'm going to raise it, but I'm going to take it offside, which means I'd like you to form a bit of a team, and I'd like you to go away and come up with proposals and circulate a paper in advance of our next meeting so that we can start advancing that. And it's a great way of saving time, because a meeting can be hijacked by any other business item that's lobbed in, which is quite often an urgent issue. And then the offside rule allows you to say, we acknowledge it, but let's take it offside. submitting your information is that if we all agree and promise that we're going to send information in advance, which gives us a better meeting, such as if it's a sales meeting and we say, could I get all your leads and could you tell me all your quotes and what you've done or the deals that you've closed? I'll often say, could we get that gathered and actioned and circulated in advance of the meeting? It generally improves the meeting outcome, because I've sat through far too many meetings where people are saying, oh, I didn't submit the information, in which case we have an incomplete picture. Now, I would never cancel a meeting because of that, and I would never make someone feel uncomfortable because they haven't submitted information from that, but I would take whatever measures were necessary to say, it's so important that you submit your information in advance. It really helps us. Another method that I've adopted, which I really didn't like at the start, was counting down. I have a very good friend and colleague, and I started going to meetings, and they said, I'm going to count this meeting down. And by that, they meant we have 4 items on the agenda, each of which gets 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the clock at an hour, and it's going to count down. And when it gets to 45 minutes, we have to move on to item 2. And when it gets to 30 minutes, we got to move on to item number 3, and so on and so on. And I hated it at the start because I'm a bit of a storyteller. And in telling these stories, what I've often found is that I could take the meeting off in a tangent, and the chair of the meeting would say, Michael, fascinating story, very interesting. However, I'm going to stop you because counting down, we've only got 30 minutes left and we've a lot to cover. Now, I find getting agreement and buy-in to do that is good. You will get a bit of pushback, but the counting down of the clock for the meeting can be very, very effective, particularly in online meetings, because it minimizes deviation and keeps people focused. Can be a struggle, can be tough, but it's worthwhile. Minutes and tasks, I think, are very important. And a rule that I adopted a long time ago was that if I have a number of tasks coming out of a meeting, as opposed to producing a very detailed minute of that meeting, I like to review progress with the previous tasks, to identify what tasks we have going forward, and again, get that circulated within 12 hours of the meeting. Ideally, in an ideal world, which I don't always meet, you sit down after the meeting and take 30 minutes to update your progress report, whether it's your RAG report, your task list, and just circulate it out to people. And a lot of people report that when they get that, they really, really feel there's a benefit of it. However, just because you've sent it out after the online meeting doesn't mean that it's going to happen. So I'm a fan that if I'm in the chair and if I have responsibility for it, I'll do some nudging. And by nudging, I simply mean that between meetings, I'll often inquire about progress. But the way I'll inquire about progress isn't, have you got that done? Or how are you getting on with that? Which is roughly saying the same thing. I'll often say to people, do you need a hand with that? And they'll go, a hand with what? They said, well, you said that you were going to look at the prospect list and do a bit of cleansing on that and present it before the next meeting and circulate it. The meeting's in 3 days' time. Can I give you a hand with that? Or they, no, I have that done. I'm just about to circulate it. And they go, great. Or people might say, Michael, I'm a bit lost. I don't know what it is you're looking for. And they go, great, let me give you a hand with that. Nudging. It takes time to form habits, and in lockdown scenario, we've all had time to both adjust and adopt our habits. But one great thing is that people are now adopting online meeting as a standard item. So while it's tough within the context of that, we're now starting to form habits. And the other thing that I adopt is, in delivering good online meetings, is that I'll often say, this meeting will take place at the scheduled time, regardless of the attendees. So if someone can't turn up, if someone can't make it, then we're going to go ahead anyway. And what I often find is that people will start to adjust their behavior to make time so that they will make the time to come to the scheduled meeting. And people who persistently can't, I tend to take that offside and say to them, this time seems to be a struggle for you. I have an example where I'm working with a bunch of people who have a brewery and have some pubs, and we had this brilliant idea that we'd have our online brewing meeting at a certain time in the day, and we're now on our 3rd different time, and we'll come up with the one that works. But someone had the brilliant idea that 11 o'clock was good. I'm not sure that that works. Someone else had the idea that doing it at 3:30 on a Friday works. I don't know, but very soon we'll discover which is the best time to have it, because you constantly have to be refining and adjusting the online meeting, because we have to accommodate people's situations by continuously improving and refining what we have. This is the new requirement.